Good evening. We are continuing to solve our systems algebraically. We already saw substitution method. This was lesson 9.2. We are getting into elimination method, which is lesson 9.3. So there are a lot of methods that we're going to learn. So one of them is elimination method. In elimination method, we have a lot of variety of things that we're going to learn. So elimination means to get rid of. So as the name suggests, we are going to eliminate one of the variables, either x or y, and we're going to find what the other variable is. Say if I eliminated x, I'm going to figure out what y is, and once I know what y is, I can come back and figure out what x is. And similarly, if I'm getting rid of y, I can figure out what x is. Then if I know what x is, I can come back to figure out what y is. So this is elimination method in a nutshell. So let's see why it works, why this elimination method works. We know what an addition and subtraction property of equality is. If I add the same thing to both sides of my equation, the sense of my equation does not change. Similarly, subtraction property, if I subtract something from both sides of the equation, the sense of the equation does not change. So let's say I have two equations. 5 plus 1 equals 6. 3 plus 4 equals 7. So I'm just writing both equations one below the other. So now I'm going to add the two equations. I'm adding the two equations. So 5 plus 3 becomes 8, and 1 plus 4 becomes 5. 6 plus 7, I'm just adding them. So I got 8 plus 5 is 13. 6 plus 7 is also 13. I still have the sense of the equation. My equation is still true, even though I added both equations. Now let's say I want to subtract the two equations. 5 plus 1 equals 6. 3 plus 4 equals 7. I'm subtracting the two equations. 5 minus 3 will give me 2. And 1 minus 4 will give me a negative 3. And 6 minus 7 will give me a negative 1. 2 minus 3 is negative 1. So negative 1 equals negative 1. So my equation still remains true. So this is the property that we are going to use in our elimination. So another thing that we are going to use is if I add a number and its opposite. If I add a number and its opposite, I'm going to get a 0. If I subtract same numbers, I'm again going to get a 0. So I'm going to use these two properties also in my elimination method. So let's take a look at our elimination method. The first elimination that we're going to do is elimination by addition. So let's consider these two equations that forms the system of our linear system. So I have equation number 1 and equation number 2. So we're going to use the addition property or the subtraction property. So when I look at my equation, I'm looking at my variables x and y, x and y. I'm going to look at the coefficients of my x and y. The coefficient of x is 2 and 6. The coefficient of y is 5 and negative 5. So I'm looking at these two numbers. The numbers are one and the same, but the signs are opposite to each other. So if I add the two, it's going to become 0. Positive 5 plus a negative 5 is going to turn it into a 0. So when the coefficient becomes 0, my y is going to disappear. So that's what elimination is. So when I say solving by addition, I need to take care that the variable that I have, the coefficient that I have for one of the variables is one and the same, and the signs are opposite to each other. So if I add these two equations, I'm adding the two equations. 2x plus 6x is going to give me 8x. Positive 5y plus negative 5y is going to cancel out each other. give me 17 plus negative 9 is going to give me an 8. So as we see, we got rid of one of the variables. We eliminated y. So now I can solve for x. I got x equal to 1. So remember, we still have to figure out what y is. So I can go back and plug my value of x into any one of these equations because it has to satisfy both equations. So I plug in any one of the equations and figure out what y is. So I know x is 1 plus, I'm putting it in equation 1, equals 17. So 2 plus 5y is 17. I can solve this equation. I will get 5y equal to 15 or y equal to 3. So I know my solution, x is 1 and y is 3. Okay, so this is elimination by addition. So the care should be taken that I'm going to eliminate the variable that has the same number in front of it, but the signs are opposite to each other. So I have the numbers that are same, but the signs are opposite. So I'm going to use my addition property to eliminate the variable. Okay, so that's elimination by addition. The next is elimination by subtraction. So we saw the subtraction property. If we subtract two equations, the sense of the equation does not change. So why am I using subtraction in this case? So here, if I look at my equations, 2x plus 6y equal to 6, 2x minus y equal to negative 8. So this is equation number 1. So equation number 2. So I look at my variables and I see the coefficient of x is one and the same. The coefficient of y is 6 and negative 1. So if I don't see a number, I'm going to replace it with a 1. Okay, so that way I don't confuse myself. So I have these two variables x and y, and I'm seeing that the coefficient of x are one and the same. Now if I add these two, say I'm going to add these two, okay, we're just trying. So 2 plus 2 is going to make it to a 4. 6 plus negative 1 is going to make it to a 5. So I'm not getting rid of any of my variables. So I have to subtract. I cannot add. I have to subtract. Because these two numbers are one and the same, the signs are also one and the same. Meaning this is also a positive 2. This is also a positive 2. So two of the numbers that are of the same number and the same sign, I have to subtract. Okay, so when I subtract, 2x minus 2x is going to eliminate that variable totally. 6y minus negative 1y. So this is where you guys need to be really good at integer addition and subtraction. This is 6 minus negative 1. 6 minus negative 1 is going to make it to a 7y equals 6 minus negative 8. 6 minus negative 8 is going to make it to a 14. So y will be equal to 2. So I have figured out what y is. Now it's for me to go back and figure out what x is. So I can put this value of y in any one of these equations and figure out what y is. So I have 2x plus 6 times y equal to 6. So I have 2x plus 12 is equal to 6. So I can solve this. So I have 2x equal to negative 6 or x equal to negative 3. So my solution is negative 3, comma 2. So we did elimination by addition and elimination by subtraction. So here is something, a device that you can use to remember when to add two equations and when to subtract two equations. So let's say I have these two equations, 4x minus 2y equal to 12, x plus 2y equal to 8. So I have these two equations, equation 1 and equation 2. As you can see, I'm looking at my equations. The y variable seems promising because the coefficient of y is 2 and 2. But the signs are opposite to each other. That's a negative and that's a positive. So two opposite numbers, if I add them, it's going to eliminate that. Okay? So if the numbers are same, so opposite numbers add. Okay? O, N, A. Okay? Opposite numbers add. So if I add the two equations, I get 5x. The negative 2 plus the positive 2 is going to cancel out each other. 12 plus 8 is 20. So I got x equal to 4. Now I can figure out what y is. If I plug it into this equation, 4 plus 2y is equal to 8. I subtract the 4. 2y equal to 4, or y equal to 2. So I got my solution. X is 4, y is 2. So now, opposite numbers, you add them. So let's take a look at this equation. (3x plus 2y equal to 10). 3x minus y equal to 22. So I have equation number 1, equation number 2. So I'm looking at my variables. My x variable has got the same number, 3 and 3. But this is a positive 3 and this is also a positive 3. The same numbers, if you have same sign, you subtract. Same sign, you subtract. You can say SSS, like ISS. All right, same sign, subtract. Okay, so 3. So I'm going to subtract the two equations. So 3 minus 3 is going to eliminate that variable. 2 minus, I'm going to put a 1 there. So that is 2 minus negative 1. Please be careful about your integer addition and subtraction. It's key to the success of this method. So 2 minus negative 1, that's going to give you a 3. So 3y is equal to 10 minus 22 is going to be negative 12. So y will be negative 4. So I can figure out what y is. I can go back and figure out what x is. So I got 3x plus 2 times y is equal to 10. Or 3x, that will make it a negative 8 minus 8 equal to 10. So I'm going to solve this equation. So 3x is 18 or x equal to 6. So my solution is 6, negative 4. So that's elimination by addition and elimination by subtraction. That's lesson 9.3.